Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. Um, on this, I decided to go ahead and throw this upload up. Like I said, at times I'll do a one at not random, but at bonus. Today, I'm going to be, or we're going to be discussing rather, how I myself save money using a credit card. And Jan from New York City Saves Money, who's alongside, has got a few questions that she would like to ask me. So, without further ado, if you want, definitely go ahead and ask me the questions. Whatever.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Thanks for inviting me for this bonus upload on this wonderful Sunday before the holiday weekend. So appreciate it. Steve, I actually formulated what I would consider some general questions that perhaps the viewing audience might be interested in. Because there was a time that I didn't understand certain things myself that some people consider basic when it comes to credit cards and everything. And I know that you wonderfully know how to handle financials. And I know also wonderfully that you know how to handle with credit cards. So I hope you don't mind that I ask you these questions. Oh, good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So this general question number one, should I or we use cash instead of credit cards whenever possible?
Yeah, I honestly think you should. When I say that, I'm not completely ruling out a credit card altogether. But if at all possible, if you know how to pick that balance, I mean, it doesn't hurt to put something on a credit card because you definitely want to show activity on it because you don't want the card to go dormant and never use it because after a certain amount of time, the credit card company can up and say, well, I noticed Mr. or Mrs. John Doe or Jane Doe or whoever you want to call it, they're not using our card, so we'll just go ahead, close the account down, we'll take our money back. They don't need it. But what I would say is, for the most part, if you can, stick with the cash. You can use the credit card. Like I said, it never hurts to, to show some activity on it, more or less.
So showing the activity, of course, is important. Okay. Speaking of important, here's another question. Why is it so important to be in good standing with credit cards?
Well, if you're in good standing with a credit card, not just only your credit card, it also builds trust. It gives you the opportunity at times to get better interest rates because ever so often people don't realize that you can call in and see if a lower APR for purchases is available. And if it is, they'll give it to you. Not just that, being in good standing with your credit because you do want to have at least a decent credit score. I'm not saying stellar 790, 800 plus. I would say if you have about a 665, 670, a decent one, next to good, because you definitely want to be able to have the opportunity to have a decent insurance premium, any insurance premium for that matter. If you go to get approved, you want to get approved for a loan, or if you want to go and rent an apartment or whatnot, you got to have a decent score to do that. You don't have to have the best, but you got to have a decent one. That's definitely what they recommend. Or also this, if you decide you want to go out and get a job, they don't do a hard inquiry on your credit. They do a soft, but they want to know how well you transact with money. So that's why I say keep a decent score if at all possible.
Okay, thank you. Now, the next question, and this is kind of interesting, even in my mind's eye, really. Why is it so important to know your credit card's billing cycle?
It's good to know your billing cycle because, one, this is important right here. we have the holidays coming up. Let's say daughter, son, husband, wife, whoever. Oh, but I want a certain something something for Christmas. Okay. That certain something something can cost, I'll just pick a number, let's say $250. If you charge it of the day that your billing cycle prints, maybe even a day before, that's good to know. What it does is and I've mentioned this several times before, what that does is it buys you an extra month of being able to pay on it. And this is where it does benefit using your credit card, especially those that are trying to establish a credit payment history. So you have a $250 charge, but the money, let's use now, for example, let's say your statement prints today on the 21st. It shows up as a charge on your December 21 statement, and it would be due like middle January, to give you an idea, like around the 18th or the 17th. Because it's usually 3 or 4 days back from print date. Take that $250 divided by however how many weeks it is from now to the roughly the 18th of January. Count how many weeks it is. Take that amount of weeks. It's probably about 9, I would say at this point, maybe 10, give or take. Divide that into $250. If it is 10 weeks, that's $25. Make a $25, 25, 25, 25.
Wow.
If you want to go a little higher to get it paid off a little sooner, like 30, 35, you can do that. What you're doing is at the end of the course is you're showing 9 or 10 payments, which is what they want to see. So doing it that way, you're actually doing yourself a favor between you and the credit card.
That's an amazing tip.
And that right there can also help you. You would be amazed.
Wow.
You would be amazed between what 7 or 8 payments on a credit card would do, especially if you're just establishing credit, if you're new to the credit world.
And it seems like a painless way for the person making the payment, because they're making the payments in smaller doses. In frequency, yes, but like $25 weekly is so much easier.
That's if you have a $250.
Yes, using it as the example.
Now, if you go and put $1,000 in it, it's going to be $100 if you base it at 10 weeks. Right. Another thing, and it's not just for those that are trying to establish credit. If you have a good credit score, I like to use the buy that extra month. I do it all the time. It's also like having a small layaway. The only difference is you have the merchandise instead of having to put it away and make payment, and then when you're done, you get it, you go and get it. No, you'll have the merchandise there, but anybody can do that weekly payment. It does work. And again, that amount of money, again, 10 weeks is just a ballpark, number that I'm giving. And again, the weekly payment is going to vary depending on how much it is that you charge at one time. So that can change.
Oh, that's a great tip. I really love that. What is the biggest thing that one could do to control credit card spending?
One of the things that you can do to control credit card spending is this. This is probably one thing that people don't do. And if you don't do this, you're flirting with disaster. No, I'm not trying to quote Molly Hatchet, which is from my hometown, and that's another topic within itself. But what it is this. Whatever amount of money, look at your total income. Look at how much money you make. because you want to try to spend, whether it with cash, credit card, you want to stay within a certain dollar amount. Because why? You also want to be able to pay it back. You don't want to wind up in debt. That's
right.
not, that wasn't the original intention of a credit card. It was not created for those to go into credit card debt, although a lot of people have done that, which is a mistake. Now, okay, if you do, I will say this as well. Also know your APR on your credit cards. That's important. Because if I have two credit cards, one credit card is at 12.99%, and let's say I have another one that's at 5.99%, you best believe I'm going to put it on the 5.99. I'll tell you why. If in the small chance that you are not able to pay that off in full, try to make sure you have a low balance remaining, because the lower you can get your balance, the less interest you're going to pay. I mean, if you wind up paying 80, 90 cents, a dollar, $1.10 of interest, that's not bad. But definitely consider using a lower APR purchase credit card over the higher. So I do recommend look at your whole entire picture.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Should credit cards ever be used as an official emergency fund?
Okay. I'm trying not to laugh here because it's not funny, but
I tried too, by the way.
No,
I try not to laugh as well on that one.
I'll tell you why. I throw the word laugh in there, because no disrespect to anybody, because I find it this way. Anyone who looks at a credit card as an emergency fund, please don't take this out of context. I'm not pointing fingers. A person is a fool for thinking that. Why do I want to go to a method of money when I need money, when I will wind up having to pay it back to them in the long run? The way that an emergency fund was designed is that you take a little bit of money each month and set it aside, and let it build up. And then if something comes up, emergency or something just in general where you have to get your hands on some money, you'll have it. But a credit card was never, ever designed for an emergency fund. And I'll tell you where people get crossed with that. People said never use a credit card unless it's an emergency. Okay. An emergency, like if your car breaks down on the side of the road, or you got to have a car repair, or if you're not able to get your hands on cash, yeah, go ahead and use your credit card. In an emergency of that sense, that's when you use it. But to use it as an emergency fund in general, avoid it at all costs, because that's not the original intention of it.
That's right. Okay. Thank you so far for all of this. But some people hear this terminology, two terminologies some people hear. One is, and this is a question, what is a balance transfer? And some people do not know what APR stands for.
APR stands for annual percentage rate. And in simple terms about a balance transfer, because this is basically what it is, it really is. What you're doing with a balance transfer, keep it in mind like this, and it'll be very simple to figure out. You're refinancing your own money. So let's say you have this credit card, you have charges for the holiday, and you're at 12.99%. but you have this credit card over here that may be 3.99, 4.99, 5.99, whatever. You know, the best thing to do if you can't is to take the money off the 13%, almost 13% card and move it over here. So you're refinancing your money to get a better rate, pay less interest, or to pay it off altogether, you know. So, but that's what I do when it comes to balance transfers. I use balance transfers all the time. If I know that I'm not going to be able to pay off a balance by a certain date at this rate, there's no need for me to give this credit card over here at 14% that extra money when I can move it over here at 5%. And there's another thing that I don't like, and this is a slightly different, it's still within finance, but it's a little bit different. When you have a credit card through a bank versus a credit union, I've heard it both ways. I know in my case, I've always had a hell of a lot better, I mean, pardon my language, much, 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 much better turnout with a credit union. Why? Credit union, I just got through doing a balance transfer a little while ago. I moved some money over from Discover to my Navy Federal.
Mm-hmm.
And the money that I moved to Navy Federal, there was no transaction fee attached. And now they're charging 4 and 5%. So if you have $5,000 at a bank, they're going to tack another $200 on at 4% that you got to pay. So technically, to get a 0%, I'll just use that for an example. Technically, you're not getting a 0% interest because you're paying that $200. So what I would do to figure out basically what the percentage rate is I would take the $200, divide it by 12, and see what it is per month. And then I would go back and figure the amount of money and play with different percentage rates to figure out about how much I'm being charged at whatever rate. So I personally, if those are looking to get a credit card, if you're with a credit union, by all means, get it with them. You avoid a lot of fees, a lot easier to work with. And another thing I like about my Navy Federal card is it's linked to my checking account. So if I got to make a payment, I just do tap, tap, and it's made.
That's great.
It's all right there.
That's really, really good.
So that, you know, even though you asked me about a balance transfer, I did go slightly further on it, you know.
No, good. So, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make a statement in this case. A couple of years back, maybe, yeah, I'd say about 2 years back, I did many, many videos, I'm over 900 videos. And technically it would have been 1,300, but that's another story. I did a video where I was extremely anti-credit card. That's why I'm bringing this up. And the reason at that moment in time, and we all evolve, we all change. I was heavy duty listening to someone that has a very influential radio show in the financials and begins with letter D. That's all I'm saying there.
Yeah. And
that person, I don't know about right now. I don't listen to him as much, but that person, most of the stuff is really good. But one thing, he was extremely anti-credit card. In this world of today, you have to have, whether you like it or not, is a different issue. But in this world of today, you must have good credit. Even, unfortunately, people check your credit card score, your score if you're even looking for a job.
I just said that.
Yes, right. Yes. That's confirming what Steve said is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. I personally don't agree with that practice, but it's not for me to say. But no, my feelings have greatly changed on that since I just wanted to clarify that because of my video from a couple of years back. We all evolve.
Now, the man the man you're talking about that starts with the letter D, and I know exactly who it is, and I'm just going to mention there was a little story that matter of fact, I went on YouTube and I happened to catch one of his. A woman was looking to purchase a car, and you know, her credit was good, and the interest rate on the car was maybe like 2.5, which is not bad for a car. You know,
No,
really,
not at all.
he was wanting to lay out about $15,000. Now, 15,000 at 2.5%, the interest rate is not too terribly bad, and she wanted to finance it, you know, for about 4.5, 5 years, which to me is a little much, because in my book, if you can't have a car paid off between 3 to 3.5, you really can't afford it. Because who wants to sit there and make payments all that time and wait for the title? But back to him for a minute. He told her, don't do that. You're better off just setting $1,000 aside, save up $15,000, and go pay cash. First off, especially in a time like these with what we have going on, not everybody has the ability to set $1,000 aside. So
true. No, very
the
true.
bottom line is this. I see nothing wrong with financing if you can get a decent enough rate, the lower the better, of course. And try to make sure you can get that vehicle paid off in 36 months, like what you did back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when you purchased a car. I would say no later than 42 months at most, you know. So, but I don't completely agree with everything with the letter D.
Yeah, he really had me convinced at one point. Like,
all I ever did, or all I ever used him for, was a blueprint. That's it.
Right.
But as far as what he said was never completely gospel, because I don't agree with everything he says.
No.
So.
Well, this was a great opportunity, you inviting me here and me having those general questions that I think a lot of people, you know, this would concern, you know, this area of credit cards. So this was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. You know, be on the lookout on Monday. No, take that back. Be on the lookout on Tuesday for my Recipe Tuesday that I have coming up. Now, on Monday, Jan has a video that has going to have me on it that will air at 8 p.m. And the topic in which, or the subject itself that I'm going to be discussing on that show is what I will be discussing on Tuesday morning on Recipe Tuesday. So be on the lookout. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I can tell you that it has to do with the holiday season. I'm not going to say much more than that.
Yes, and it'll be on tomorrow night, Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time.
And then on Tuesday as well at 10 a.m., Jan is having a Tea Tuesday segment in which I have one coming up as well.
I'm so glad you're participating in this week.
I will be discussing a little bit, you know, I'm going to be discussing something about myself, so be on the lookout for that. And
more lookouts, by the way, on Thanksgiving, Steve. We have our collab. Of the Turkey Day trivia questions. That's fun. That's a special bonus upload. That's at 11 o'clock. Steve has his own upload at the same time, and I'll have my own. So you get like a whole bunch of questions, and you can have your family join in on the fun.
That's right. Okay. Well, thanks for, you know, coming on. I'm glad you decided to be here on this one.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And, you know, I hope all of you have, you know, a good day the rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everybody.